Hello, all you beautiful people out there. My name is Xanther, and today we will be talking about horror and what it should be like and what it shouldn't do, what it should and should not do. So first off, on what a horror game should strive before. And before I talk about anything, my horror could be different from somebody else's definition of horror. For them, it could be panic or trying to kill as many enemies at once, jump scares, running out of ammo, etc., etc. But for me, I think you should feel pure dread and it should have sheer atmosphere. And it should always be making you feel uneasy, like where you don't know what's gonna happen and you're scared to go any further. So this makes my first point. Feeling uneasy. Never feeling safe, but feeling safe at times. Because if you never feel safe and it's just non-stop horror, you probably won't be able to play it as long. But Amnesia, the older Amnesia games, they did that all right. You didn't really know what was going on in the castle. It felt empty. I haven't played the new Amnesia game. I'm probably gonna play it at my channel at one point, but I think a game that really nailed this feeling was Resident Evil 7. It just had such an oppressive atmosphere. You had no idea what the hell was going on at the start, and whenever you got to the Baker house, everything was weird. There's a lot of weird contraptions. You don't know who these people are, what the enemies are, and it just made the whole place made you feel uneasy. You just hear random things in the background, like creakiness, stuff like that. And whenever I was turning around in that game, I got scared by my own footsteps, because when you turn around, you can hear them, and I thought something was coming up on me. So, I think that game nailed atmosphere in general. If you don't agree, then it's fine. You have your own opinions, but that's just what I think. But another thing about Resident Evil 7 is that you would never really get into a comfort zone. You would always feel uneasy, and you would never really know what was gonna happen. That's the thing about Amnesia, that where Pitfalls is that after a while you kind of see a pattern. Like whenever you find something really important, like a key or solve a puzzle, when Daniel sighs and his sanity goes right back up, then you knew something was gonna happen. But yeah, that brings me into another point, is it shouldn't be too formulaic. Don't get me wrong, the Amnesia games are great, good atmosphere, the monsters were really cool, but after a while, you knew when the monsters were going to come up, what was going to happen, and you knew how to deal with them. So then the scares would kind of lose their effect after a while. Alright, that brings me on the next thing to my list, is the type of scares you give your gamer. So there are a lot of indie games and stuff, but I'm gonna say an old indie game that I really liked, Slender: The Arrival. Good atmosphere, good sound design, but it kind of limited itself on only using jump scares. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to where there's jump scares. I never really liked them, but they do have their place. But I can think of an exception of a game that only has jump scares is Five Nights at Freddy's, because the atmosphere it mixed in not knowing where the animatronics are, that really boosted the horror in that game. So yeah, that's an exception. There's probably a couple more, but I'm not a really big fan of jump scares, but they do have their place in horror games, because you can have them at times just to give you that shot of adrenaline, that where you feel scared in that moment, and then it brings something else your way that terrifies you even more. But back to Slenderman, whenever he chases you around and you see that static and his face pops up, that could be the most beautiful thing. It could be a kitten, and you would still get scared by it, because it'll still startle you. That's the thing about jump scares, because if I'm being honest, there's nothing scary about Slender Man. There's nothing. At least not to me, anyways. I don't think there is. Like, if I saw a picture of Slender Man, then I wouldn't get like, oh my god, that's so terrifying. He's just a big white dude in a suit. He's not that scary. To me, anyways. But still, whenever he comes up like that, don't get me wrong, I really like the pretty much every Slenderman game I've played, except like the crappy ones. But I feel like you're just limiting your game if it's only jump scares. It's just kind of cheap, because after a while, if you get scared by the same thing over and over, you're not going to be scared anymore. That's another reason why I like Resident Evil 7, is because all their scares were pretty unique. I remember when the first quadruped mold creature came out of the wall, it busted out of the wall, and it terrified you, because you're like, what the heck? What happened? That's a terrible reenactment, but you know what I'm trying to say. If your game relies on jump scares, you're kind of limiting yourself. Again, this exception was FNAF and probably other things. But yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm getting back to Resident Evil games in general. But Resident Evil 7 and 2, I feel, because those are scary games in my opinion. I promise I'm not biased by Resident Evil games. I do love them though. But a thing that they did really well was, like, let's say there was a door. You'd go in that door because you'd know that there's a jump scare in that room. Like, you would think to yourself, there is. But then you go in the room, nothing happens. Then you get into your comfort zone. But then, like, as soon as you leave the room, then something happens. And then it gives you that rush because you were expecting something else but got something different. And it's not one of those games like, oh, there's going to be a jump scare happening. It happens, then you get into your comfort zone. But that's what it did really well as well. And Outlast did good in that scenario as well, in my opinion. And it just left you on your toes and just thinking, what is going to happen next? And I feel like I'm saying the same thing. I'm really bad at commentary. Sorry. Now, here brings me to my other point, audio. I know a game it needs audio in general, but I'm just talking about ambient effects, like creaking of boards. Again, what Resident Evil did really well was their ambient effects, where like you're walking, boards creak. You may think you hear things in the background. Your footsteps are really ambient, and whenever you go through this hallway in Resident Evil 2, you'll hear rain, and then there's a licker right up there, and you just hear it making noises, crawling around in the rain, hitting like the tiles of the roof. It's really well done, and even if it is just footsteps, that can be terrifying in its own way as well. Because if I remember Silent Hill 2, when you're walking through, like, it did everything that Resident Evil 2 and 7 did, but I remember you were walking through fog, and it was just nothing. No sound, nothing. Which can be just as terrifying, especially if you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know when it's going to happen. So, yeah, that's what brings me to that point. A game should have good ambient effects and audio. I hear that Still Wakes the Deep is really good. I'm probably going to play that on my channel. So stay tuned for that. Alright, that brings me to another point. I think a lot of games, a lot of them now I feel, is that none of them really leave you in the unknown. Like, let's say, I'm going to give you an example. You're walking down a very dark corridor. You can't see the end. But what I would really like is, like, there's, like, you don't hear anything, see anything, and you can hear something. But you don't see it yet, and you can't see it until it's, like, right on top of you. But you hear the footsteps getting closer and closer. Like, that is delicious horror right there. That's the best word I could come up with. But yeah, I think that is really freaking terrifying, to me at least. Again, this is all my opinion. If I can't speak, if you don't find any of this scary, then I'm sorry. It's just what I find scary. Nothing I'm saying in this video is fact, obviously. I'm not gonna be that. I'm not gonna be like that. Alright, that brings me to another point, which is, I feel like is a kind of taboo subject in horror games, is combat. Some people say there shouldn't be any combat. Some people say there should. But there's a good mix in between, I feel. Again, something that Resident Evil 7 and The Evil Within, I think, did pretty well. Well, Resident Evil games in general, most, not 6 or 5. But I feel like, because Evil Within and Resident Evil 7, at the end it did have a machine gun, but if it's going to give you a heavy weaponry, it should really limit the ammo. Like, really. And it shouldn't feel too powerful. And there should be things where you can't fight at all, but there should be a good mix in between combat. Like Resident Evil 7, it really put you limited on ammo. And whenever you did get the Magnum, there's only like 5-7 shots in that game that you can use. And it's pretty powerful. Obviously, when you complete the game, you get special unlocks that let it be powerful. That's just for fun at that point. But a horror game shouldn't give you, like, very, very overpowered weapons. Like machine guns, RPGs, stuff like that. People are probably going to get mad at this. But Resident Evil 4 had RPGs and stuff, but still, they were decently hard to get. But yeah, there's always a good mix in between. I think Evil Within and the Resident Evil games did this pretty well, except 5, 6, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And whenever you don't have any combat in the game, it gets into that pattern where you know it's gonna happen. Whenever you see monster, run. That's it. Sometimes there's exceptions when they do things special, but usually it's just see monster, run, hide, see monster, run, hide. But I feel if you give the player both options, where they have limited ammo, limited firepower, and they see a big enemy where they can either kill it if they have enough to get out of the way faster, or run and hide and deal with it later. I feel like giving the player both options is a good sweet spot. But yeah, that brings me to the end of this video. I know after I'm done recording, I'll probably think of more things, and I'll kick myself for not saying them. I should probably have, like, a list saying do's, don'ts. But I mainly just think of this at the top of my head. I don't like scripts, because then I don't like writing or reading. I'm pretty good at reading and stuff, but I just wanna think things of my own stuff. I don't wanna feel scripted. So anyways, yeah, so if you can leave in the comments, just tell me your thoughts, but what you think a good horror game is, or what you should like about a horror game. I read every comment. I read everybody's comments if they work, because YouTube's kind of buggy with the comment section. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, let me know if you like horror games. My favorite genre is probably horror. I feel like a good horror game could be the best game in the world, in my opinion. But anyways, yeah, that's probably going to be it for this episode. Like I said, I'm probably going to think of more stuff, but yeah, hit the like button and leave your comments, because I really want to hear what people have to say. Maybe we could get the horror people to make great horror games, because Resident Evil is kind of dominating the market in horror games right now. But I feel like if there's just non-stop Resident Evil horror games but no other horror games, people are going to get bored. I obviously hope that Resident Evil 9 is going to be amazing. Or are they making a Resident Evil 5 remake next? I don't know. Maybe. But yeah, let me know if you like horror games. Hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. I'm grateful, really, for all the subscribers I do have. Because I mainly do this for fun. But if I could actually make this a job, that would be amazing. I'd be ecstatic. 'Cause this, sharing my thoughts, like showing people games that I love to other people for them to play, I think that's just the best thing in the world, to entertain people and make people happy. But anyways, I'll see all you dudes in the next video. Bye!